don't need no education. We don't need no thought control. Dark sarcasm in the classroom. We don't need no thought control. Dark sarcasm in the classroom.
What? Listen, Paula, it doesn't apply to us because we're not classroom teachers. We're classroom teachers. It was all part of the union discussion. When you were too busy swiping left and when you should have been swiping right. Anyway, it's not all about that. It's just, you plan, you implement, and blah, blah, blah. Oh, is she sitting next to him again? Oh.
The reality is, lots go on in these little people's lives, and sometimes, unfortunately, you are the only adult willing to spend time on them. Building those relationships takes time, and every day is a new day. Regardless, I found ending the day all together as a class to debrief was some of the most magical times I ever had with the classroom. And sometimes it means giving up some of your break time to offer an alternative downtime for them when playground or whatever's buzzing around in their mind is taking effect, and they can actually ask for that. And it builds trust, and I found it really beneficial for establishing and making those foundations for that relationship with that student in particular. Okay, so when they experience a high registration input, it is usually due to a low tolerance threshold level. As a result, some students will react in a passive or an active manner. Therefore, it's if it's high, they will try and avoid that particular sensory registration input. For self-regulating purposes, they require less of that sensory. The illustration with the ear icon moving along the scale towards touch as their preferred soothing strategy. However, in class, this can easily be overlooked due to the in class reality. Often, this can be perceived as a behaviour, as illustrated with the boy gripping his pencil, demonstrating some characteristics of proprioception. And if not removed from the high sensory registration point of location, it can and will result in the student to actively avoid the area. And as they have a low threshold tolerance level for sound, pitch, and frequency, it can get to an escalation. So, with the brain and everything illustrated here, it is for us teachers, it can be an eye opener. And specifically regarding sensory registration input, whether it's low or high, to us teachers, it looks like low means they will seek, wanting more of. If it's high, they will avoid it as a way to have less of. And the of meaning that particular registration input, whether it's from the sensory of eyes, looking, light, hearing, frequency, pitch, volume. It can be touch, feel, proprioception, vestibular, so the balancing, the the actual tolerance, those type of sensations, as well as taste or having things in one's mouth, and in particular that, and smells or sense of odors or preferred odors, those sorts of things. So it's specifically geared in this slide just for the sensory registration. We'll talk more on the why they want more of or less of due to their threshold tolerance levels, as mentioned earlier. Okay, a reminder, the high sensory hearing registration input. In this slide, the illustration depicts the sensory threshold tolerance levels, such as a low threshold tolerance level towards noise. Um, and that's why in most cases the student will avoid to have less of. The scale demonstrates that as they move away from that area and seek a soothing strategy, and in this case, it'll be touch to self-regulate. Okay, okay. To further illustrate this, it's like a syringe pushing its contents through a silicon tube within another syringe attached, causing a transfer of contents. As it starts to fill, the plunger retracts. So this is another way that you can look at the difference of sensory registration input and the effects of the threshold tolerance levels. And if they have a high threshold tolerance level for touch, proprioception, then they will seek more of. And be it body pressure, sense of time, space, and environment, often this can look aggressive or have exaggerated movements, like if there's a slant or a hill climb, then they will have a different gated effect or walking or bent over. Um, Often doesn't feel pain, they have a high threshold, and so also their release, their strength of items and grip, and especially in a school setting, that can be misconstrued as an aggressive behaviour upon another student or teacher. Okay, I've talked enough about Winnie Dunn's model of sensory registration, input and output scale, which she has guided me so much, especially when I was a special education provider uh, within Queensland, as an RTLB in New Zealand, um, things like that. Just can't say enough about it. Takes away all those things that you think are happening, and in turn gives you a looking lens where you go, oh. So tune in next time when we look at how 3D printing, laser engraving and cutting, music and musician mates that can unlock so much more for our petals, creating resources that provide specifically for those students in need, and support of teachers. Remember, teachers' lives matter. Go get that coffee. I've talked enough.